Welcome to this video on MLA Documentation, supporting what you know and giving others credit for their ideas. So the question arises, why should we document when we're writing an essay? Well, there are a number of reasons for that. First and foremost, we should document to avoid plagiarism. And remember, plagiarism is the intentional or unintentional use of someone else's words or thoughts in a manner that makes them appear to be your own thoughts. Second, we should document to support and add credibility to our ideas. Third, we should document to help readers follow our research, because there are times where they might want to follow up and do their own research, and now they have a trail. There are many different types of documentation, but the one we're focusing on for this class will be MLA documentation. Remember that MLA documentation is a format that is often called the author page number format. This format typically includes the author's last name and the page number from which the words or ideas are taken. So for example, if you saw a parenthetical citation Smith 237, you would know that that citation had been taken from some document that was written by someone with the last name Smith and from page number 237. So how do we go about citing sources, you might ask? Well, we do it with a combination of internal citations, which occur in the body of the essay, and a works cited page which occurs at the end. There are three types of internal citations that you need to know about. Direct quotation, which obviously uses a word-for-word lifting of the quotation from the original source and then giving credit to it. Paraphrase internal citation, which is going to be putting the ideas into your own words but generally keeping the same length and spirit. And summary, which is going to be a condensing of the original into a shorter version. Typically the two types that you'll need to concern yourself with and that you'll use the most during your essay writing will be direct quotation and paraphrase. Please note that as you write the essay, these internal citations are going to be used within the essay's body to cite the source and then to help link back to the works cited page. So let's look at a couple types of internal citations, and we'll start with a direct quotation. We'll start with a direct quotation that has a parenthetical citation at the end of the sentence. So the example reads, researchers support the notion that college success results when students are self-motivated. In fact, a 2003 study indicated that intrinsic motivation is the strongest indicator of college success. Notice how the exact quotation is woven into the sentence. It's not a standalone event. It's not something that's kind of strung out there by itself. Instead, it flows right out of the sentence that has been written. That's exactly what you should be striving to do, both with your paraphrase and especially with your direct quotations, because it's going to improve the readability of your essay. In terms of the internal citation, note that this must have come from a document or a book that was written by someone with the last name Miller, and page 346. And also note that the internal citation ends with a period. So we have the parenthetical citation and then the period, because the period is the end of the entire sentence. There are also internal citations that use both direct quotations and paraphrase that utilize what's called an in-text citation. And instead of having the author's name then at the end of the sentence in the parentheses, it's going to be in the text of the sentence. Typically what's required then at the end of the sentence is the page number. So using the same example, researchers support the notion that college success results when students are self-motivated. In fact, a 2003 study by John Miller indicated that intrinsic motivation is the strongest indicator of college success. Page 346, period. So this example is going to be very similar, but it's a way to sort of mix it up, to add some variety to your sentences, and it's a way to sort of highlight John Miller's name. So if you have an important individual or someone that you really want to use to add credibility to your argument, using this type of citation format can be very effective. Of course, there are also internal citations that are paraphrased, and remember that a paraphrase is a version of the original idea that we put into our own words. It's very important to avoid plagiarism with paraphrase and not use some of the same words or keywords that were utilized in the original. So it's very important that you put this into your own words. Nonetheless, because you're borrowing the idea from another source, you still have to give credit to that other source. So if we had an internal citation paraphrase that utilized a parenthetical citation at the end of the sentence, it would be something like this. Many researchers, including a 2003 study, support the notion that self-motivation and self-discipline are the key ideas to college success. Miller 346, period. And of course we can also use an internal citation paraphrased version with an in-text citation. So the example here would be something like this. Many researchers, including John Miller's 2003 study, support the notion that self-motivation and self-discipline are the keys to college success, page 346. Notice that the author's name, the attribution, is given in the text, therefore it's not given in the parenthetical citation, and we only have the page number there. The next few slides are some examples of internal citations in action. In this first slide, you'll see I have an orange arrow drawn to the pagination, just to remind you that any essay you do for me or for most of your college professors, you're going to be required to paginate, and that's typically done by putting your last name and the page number in the upper right corner. Just a quick note about that, it's wise for you to put that in the header. I've seen people and students frequently just try to put it on the page, but if you change anything on your page, then everything's going to be messed up in regards to the spacing. Putting it in the header isolates it away from everything else, and also putting it in the header and using the page number function as part of the formatting of your paper allows the page number to be updated automatically as soon as a new page is added. More importantly on this page is the example of the internal citation. If you look where the yellow arrow is pointing, many proponents of traditional grammar have used this line of reasoning, : Grammar is essentially a technical vocabulary for talking about language. Lester 342. So we have a direct quotation here that is cited from a source attributed to someone by the last name of Lester and taken from page 342. Notice how the direct quotation flows right out of the previous sentence. The previous sentence sets it up. That's the reason for the colon. This page has two examples of internal citations in action. The first one is pointed out by the orange arrow. In fact, research indicates that time spent teaching grammar is wasted because student writing does not improve as a result of such instruction. Taylor, 95. So this example is obviously lifted or taken directly from an article by someone by the last name of Taylor on page 95. And again, even though there's only a little phrase leading into it, the in fact, notice that little phrase sets it up so that it's not a standalone quotation. It's a smooth flowing element of the essay. And then the yellow arrow points to a second example, and you'll notice that this is another example of a sentence that sets up the direct quotation. This lack of application of rules of grammar may also imply that students just are not learning the rules in the first place. The very fact that all standard secondary school English textbooks repeat the same grammar material at each grade level tacitly acknowledges that no one really expects students to understand. Lester 342. I included this third internal citation example because it utilizes a unique situation. Every once in a while you'll have more than one text or source by the same author, or sometimes you might have a source without an author, in which case you would typically go to the title of the work. So in this example where you see the yellow arrow pointing, in his text, Noguchi explains how the traditional definition, such as the one for a noun as a person, place, thing, or idea, can be ambiguous and sometimes misleading. Grammar, pages 42 and 43. Now, you'll note if you were able to look at the work cited, you would have seen that there were two different sources from this Noguchi. Therefore, to differentiate between the two, I had to move down to the title of the piece. The same thing would be true if there were no author. The goal here is to try to connect the internal citation very clearly to the works cited page to help your readers understand exactly where your ideas have been taken. The arrows on this page are here to demonstrate and help connect the ideas from the internal citation, the parenthetical citation, to the works cited page. So the green arrow points clearly from a citation that was from Lester, page 342, and then that clearly links up with, on the works cited page, an entry for Mark Lester. The same thing is true then for the yellow arrow. Taylor 95 links up clearly with Sharon Taylor and the work that's included there on the works cited page. This is exactly what you want to strive to do as you develop your essay. So hopefully these slides gave you some hints and tips and reminders in regards to working with citation. There's definitely going to be more reading that you're going to have to do and studying you'll have to do in your textbook, but ultimately the idea of citation and documenting your sources is your responsibility. It's important that you do it to avoid plagiarism and to give credit to those whose ideas you've borrowed. It's important that you cite properly and connect to the works cited to help your readers. And it's really important that you take the time to be thorough. In the end, your readers are going to appreciate it, and I'm sure that your final grade will reflect that care as well.